Alrighty. Hello everyone, as Wester mentioned, I'm Kenorah. This is Metroid Dread. You may be noticing that the file's not starting on exactly the beginning, but I'll explain that in a bit. But time is ready when you are. Cool. Time starting in 3, 2, 1, go. So the reason the file timer starts a little bit late like that is because the leaderboards actually allow us to have a save file ready for the kind of beginning of the run. It kind of just skips a lot of the unskippable cutscenes at the beginning and places us right at the beginning of when the gameplay actually starts. Alright, so a lot of this early game is just sort of moving around through, shooting some blobs, shooting some missiles, and bouncing off walls. So a lot of this early game is going to feel very different. We don't actually see our first Emmy. The main sort of, the secondary sort of antagonist of the game for a good solid like 10-ish minutes. So here we just have the game's melee counter tutorial. When that yellow flash shows up on enemies, we're able to do a dash melee, which usually lines up for a one-shot kill. Alright, so here we have the first trick, pseudo wave. Excellent. I'll explain that in a second because we've got a second one coming up. Alright, so there's a bit of a setup for this one. And got the angle wrong. Still got the angle wrong. It's a very precise one, this one, and the angle can be lost. There we go, excellent. So it's called pseudo wave because we get an ability later in the game called wave beam, which lets us shoot through walls. By bonking Samus's collision on certain walls by sliding and then spinning, we're able to kind of shoot through things a lot earlier than we're meant to. So this is the first boss, Corpius. Didn't want to get hit by there. We're meant to have charge beam and alright, and one extra ability actually. Really hoping that they do the spit. Excellent. Alright, second phase, they go invisible. A little bit more annoying to handle. But we're able to, if we don't kill them here, we're able to skip to the counter phase by shooting their tail. It is a little early, so I'm a little missing my shots. And for most bosses in this game, you actually kind of don't want to be countering. There's actually a lot of damage reduction in those sort of counter phases on bosses. So even though the tooltips explain that you can do massive damage, a lot of the time it's quite considerably slower. And that's the first boss. So here we get the Phantom Cloak ability, the first of the Aeon abilities in the game. It uses up that bar in the top left, which drains as we use those abilities, and just kind of passively regenerates as we move. What Phantom Cloak does is what the boss was doing. It allows us to go invisible, which doesn't activate those sensor doors. And now we're just kind of making our way through. As we kind of saw earlier, there are these atom rooms where we have to stop and talk to this giant floaty orb robot. That is meant to be our ship, spoilers, but we just kind of mash through them. Adam does expect us to have met 2 Emmys at this point, which we have currently met 0, so he does have some dialogue regarding, oh, you got to avoid the Emmys. You killed the first one, but the second one's going to be harder to kill. But we won't actually see the first one. So yeah, the first pseudo wave makes us actually skip that first Emmy entirely. The broken Emmy doesn't give us any abilities, it's just used as a tutorial for the Emmy encounters, Basically, you kill a central unit, which is very reminiscent of Mother Brain from the earlier Metroid games, and you get this sort of, I forget exactly what it's called, this sort of Hyper Beam-esque ability that lets you shoot and melt off their faceplates, and then you'll be able to shoot a big burst to kill them. We'll see it plenty of times throughout the run, just not on that first one. Alright, I'm going to try an attempt trick here. A couple times. Alright. Oh, almost got it. One more. I'll try one more time. Now, alright. So, with some tricky movement there, you're able to actually skip this little underwater section, which saves a small amount of time in any descent, but in the Hunter and other categories, it actually can save a lot because you kind of traverse through this area a bunch. And it also makes us have to go through the water here as well. So now we're just kind of going around Ataria. We're already meant to have met that first Emmy, which is meant to be chasing us around here. But because we haven't actually activated that initial cutscene, it's kind of just nowhere to be found right now. And so the environment is all spooky and dreadful. But there's currently no major threats to us at the moment. Kind of working our way through this early game here. Oh boy. It is early and I am tired. I am likely to be missing some shots that I usually do not. So here we have Samus's, one of Samus's major abilities, the Charge Beam, which lets us charge up our shots to do, at the moment, roughly battle missiles damage, and also activate these Charge Beam doors. What it also lets us do in this game is that if we're holding a charge and we do a spin jump, we get the sort of pseudo screw attack, which is super handy for, whoop, I meant to jump there, is super handy for killing some annoying enemies without having to use a missile on them or even shoot them. Especially these airborne enemies here, they are a right pain. But with the fake... Oh my god, these jumps are annoying. Assume any unnecessary damage I take is just damage boosts, and we'll be right. So because we had that early pseudo earlier, we can just kind of go back up here, still skipping the Emmy zone. Now, even though we killed Corpius there in the beginning, now that we have Charge Beam, he's still kind of just there in the background, just vibing. Game doesn't really expect you to... There's a lot of intended sequence breaks in this game. You'll notice kind of which ones are and aren't intended by whether or not they break the Atom Rooms. Certain pickups and certain tricks you can do actually completely turn off the ability for Adam to really talk to you, which can save you quite a considerable amount of time over the course of the run. So now we're just activating one of these heat flow vent generator things. A couple of the areas in this game have these, especially the next one coming up. It's pretty much the whole area's gimmick. Basically, it activates the heat doors that we will eventually come across. And here we have another Atom Room, pretty much telling us more of what we've been told before of, congratulations, you have Charge Beam. That still is enough to kill Emmys. Not that we've yet to meet another Emmy.
Can I get in for a quick donut?
Absolutely.
So we have $20 from Kolobi, who says, "Let's go Kenorah. Good luck dreading that Metroid. Purple heart." And then we have a whopping $715 from Maglev Train, who says, "Hi Kenorah, you got this." And that donation put us right at 15K.
Woo! Thank you, Kolobi and Maglev. Alright, so here's a bit of a trick called Magnus Skip. Involves some precise jumping off walls and aiming, kind of utilizing the way that Samus bonks off surfaces to be able to climb onto that ledge there. There we go. Alright. So there is another slower method if you can get that first, but so this is the room that the game is meant to teach us for the Emmys, but because we already have the heat, we can just kind of walk on by, and we do actually need to activate the Emmy, otherwise in killing the central unit, the Emmy hasn't actually physically spawned in the world yet, which then means we can't kill it and we essentially soft luck our game. So this is one of those first central units. Basically, it's just a lot of missile spams and a beam spam. For now, they will get a lot easier as the game goes on. Yeah, so here's that Omega Stream and Omega Cannon Omega Blaster that I was referring to earlier. So this is what actually lets us kill those Emmys. Each Emmy kind of has one of Samus's stolen abilities, I mean, other than in the case of this one. Alright. That's that first one down. This first one gives us... I'm blanking on the name of the ability. But it effectively gives us the ability to climb onto those light blue surfaces that you see on walls and ceilings. Spider Magnet, that's right. It's effectively required for the Corpius fight, because he can do a attack that spews that poison gas on the ground. And if you don't have that Spider Magnet, it can actually be a bit of a pain. But we're able to just kill him fast enough that it shouldn't matter in most cases. Alright, so now we're done with this first area for now. If I can, there we go. So now we're just gonna head back on through to where Corpius' arena roughly is. I missed that jump up. Done everything we can for now, which we will be returning here later via the use of teleporters to get some required items for the run. And coming up, we do have probably... This game feels very fluid and fun to play. More of these annoying flying enemies. There is a damage boost trick, a series of damage boost tricks you can do in this room, but it's quite difficult, and I'd much rather just play it safe and go through the room as intended. Alright, so these elevators and trams, we'll find out later, take us to each area, and they're about 20 to 30 seconds of just kind of load times. So I was just going to sing a bunch of tunes that hopefully shouldn't get DMCA'd. And if you have any tune requests, I will be more than happy to take them and try my best at singing them. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you. Alright, so here we have Kataris. Kind of the worst split, in my opinion. It's got a lot of nothing. Have this Atom room that we skip through. A lot of Kataris in the early game is just kind of making your way through it to be able to get to the next area to pick up a required item to then kill the Emmy in this zone. So we don't really pick up anything in this zone for now, and it's basically like 10 to 12 minutes of just platforming and activating a lot of these heat vents and dodging Emmys, because now that we've actually activated the Emmys in past the first area, we can't really skip them. So they are a bit of a pain for the rest of the run. Each major area has one, some of which are less problematic than others, but we will get to that as we do. lot of these flying enemies still, which are a huge pain. Alright. That one's always an extra pain. And just making our way through. What's nice about the Metroid Dread community is that at the moment we do allow turbo controllers, primarily for accessibility. There is a little bit of a discussion as to how much they should be capped at the moment. But so even if you're not an insane masher, you are able to still get very solid times if you're able to get yourself a turbo controller. It can also just help with hand strain. I personally use a rebind method to my D-pad to mash like that, which just basically makes me use the 2 buttons to mash as fast as like that. Sacrifices a little bit of accuracy, but saves me having to relearn some stuff with the third-party controller. So we actually manipulated that Emmy there. If you notice that they're on the right side there, you can actually kind of go through that room a little differently to make sure that they kind of get your attention, or you get their attention, which kind of stops them in their tracks where they try to sense you for a bit, which gives that thermal gate enough time to open. Because that Emmy in particular can kill you quite often if you are a little bit too slow to enter that room, because it's right in the way of where you need to be. Open that door. Another one of these thermal vents. See, this is basically the bulk of Kataris. It's just affecting the thermal flow, going back through another part of it, activating more thermal flow, backtracking, rinse and repeat for about 10 minutes until we get to the next area. There is a skip, referred to as Atom Skip, that you can do in this area. It's very difficult to pull off, and I haven't actually learned it myself yet. But it basically, you break the game enough by activating another Atom Room well before you're meant to, which then turns off Atom Rooms entirely for the rest of the run. Can save you a lot of time if you can manage to get it, but it is a very difficult trick. I hate these ones in particular. Opening that shortcut up later for some progression. Alright. But yeah, so a lot of the sequence breaking in this game is actually fairly intended by the devs, or at least they thought of it. There are some certain boss quick kills that you can do if you have certain abilities, which I'll mention as we kind of get to them. And a lot of them don't actually break the Atom Rooms. We do actually break the Atom Rooms kind of late on in the run, sort of mid to late-ish on the run, when we pick up Screw Attack earlier than intended, which is always fun, because Atom Rooms are slow and we want to go fast. So yeah, kind of an explanation on those Emmy zones. The doors don't require you to shoot them to activate. But the caveat sort of being, if an Emmy spots you while in those zones, the doors are temporarily locked until the Emmy loses sight of you. You can kind of hide it off in a corner and use the Phantom Cloak ability, but if it's too close and it's already sensed you, the Phantom Cloak doesn't actually do enough to make it lose your tracks, I guess. But you can use the Phantom Cloak to avoid it while you're basically touching it. That one's a little bit tight, but nice little jump over there. Lets us avoid that narrowly. If you do get grabbed by an Emmy, it's not the end of the world. It is you have 2 opportunities to be able to parry to melee counter the enemies as they grab you and try to stab you with their head spikes. You do not have a lot of opportunity to actually get those counters. I believe it ended up being about like only like a couple frames of reaction time, at least for the first one, and then for the second one it's even harder. They are still very feasible, but ideally we just don't get grabbed by them in general. And then they are instant death. Deaths aren't nearly as catastrophic as they may sound, though. This game is quite liberal with its use of checkpoints. Any area transition or where there would be a save point, it pretty much puts you, or even like before an enemy zone, it puts a checkpoint there. So if you die, you can just reload to a checkpoint, and you'll usually not be too far behind where you died, which is good. Game does seems to still be loading, but oh, okay, the animation just didn't play. That was very odd. I think that's only happened a couple times to me before, and I was afraid that it froze up on me. So this was Dyron, I think it was. I missed it, and I forget which areas we go to in what order. This is a fairly simple at the moment area. Pretty much just making our way through, almost picking up our next ability, which will actually, at the moment, triple our beam damage. Pretty obviously once we pick it up. Alright, so it's turning on the power back here, so we can actually activate some of the doors. Alrighty. I always hate where that one spawns. It's annoying to try to hit. So this is Wave Beam. Sorry, Wide Beam. Wave Beam is much, much later. Wide Beam is very similar to Spazer Beam in Super Metroid, if you've played that. Basically, it shoots 3 bullets per shot. Allows us to open up these wide beam shots, doors, as well as hit those wide beam blocks with a charge shot. If you can manage to hit all 3 shots of your charged wide beam, it does currently do a bit more damage than our missiles, but that will change momentarily. Alright, so kind of just making our way back. Back to Kenorah. So now that we have wide beam, we can actually kill the morph ball Emmy. Typically, morph ball is one of the first items you pick up, but in this one, it's a little bit late. What, like 3 or 4 items in at this point?
I'm going to cut in for a couple of donos
Absolutely.
here. So we got $285 from Maglev Train again, who said, let's just make it an even 1,000. So they've now donated $1,000. That's huge.
Thank you, Maglev. Love you, buddy.
Woo! Also had 100 from Ghosty Boy, who said, let's go Kenorah. Good luck on your run, donating towards an amazing cause.
Thank you, Ghosty. I've got some very generous friends, and I love them to bits. Alrighty, so now that we're back in Kenorah, kind of just making our way through. Oh. The way wide beam shoots, it like kind of spirals a little bit as you're shooting, which those blocks, if you're not standing completely still or completely up pressed against them, it can cause not all the shots to just not quite hit. So here we have the next central unit, and you'll see, yeah, with wide beam now, the beam spam to kill them is super fast. So coming up, we have a pretty neat Emmy kill. A lot of the Emmy kills in this game are quite. Oh, this might be bad. Oh no, we're good. Be able to shoot that block as it's coming up, and then kill it before it grabs us, hopefully. Excellent. A little tighter than I would have liked, but it gets the job done. A lot of these enemy kills that you'll see are, at least from when I played casually, you'll be surprised as to how quickly you can just kill them from pretty much exactly where you start. Don't need to find a long kind of corridor to kill them. So now we have Morph Ball. Fantastic for reaching those hard to reach places, as well as making it very easy to fall. Morph Ball kind of lets us fall at a much faster rate than without it. And you'll also see me in a lot of these tunnels, I'll actually be sliding into the Morph Ball. It's just a little bit faster. A lot of sort of movement optimization. So here we have our first Missile Plus tank. A lot of the other missile packs we've been picking up so far only increase our missiles by 2. Those blue ones increase them by 10. We will want about 50 to 60 by the end of the game for the final boss's phase 2. I like to pick up closer to 60 just so that there's a little bit of leeway. But 50 is only required if you can aim all of your shots. Any song requests from tech, host, or anyone in the crowd?
No song request, but we did get one more donation. So we had $10 from Elliot, who just said, "Go Kenorah, dread those Metroids."
I will absolutely dread those Metroids, and by dread those Metroids, I mean Samus Metroid. Our favorite Metroid. Only mild spoilers. So here we are back in Ataria, the first area. Now that we have Morph Ball, we can access this top area. We won't be picking up any of those hard pieces, I mean energy tank pieces. We just don't pick up 4 of them enough in the run for it to really matter. So here we have another thermal flow. But something unfortunate is going to happen as we activate this one. If only we could have seen this coming. Basically, it blocks off a lot of our potential pathing. So there's only really one way to go about this room. Gotta force that fall before you can jump up here, and we're out of there. Now that whole room is now too hot for us to handle. If only there was a suit that allowed us to be able to handle hot temperatures. Hey, we did look at that. It's a suit that allows us to handle hot temperatures. So now we have the Varia suit. And also, by the way, as we'll see in the loading screens primarily, the suit design in this game is beautiful. Especially the gravity suit that we'll be picking up later. It's honestly probably one of the best suit designs in Metroid game. So yeah, not only can we now handle hot temperatures, not lava yet, that will be required by gravity suit. It also gives us a slight amount of damage reduction, if I remember correctly, which just lets us take a few hits. The unrestricted category, which allows for a lot of those major glitches that this category doesn't, does actually, I believe, still go completely suitless. Manages to be able to complete the game without by skipping Varia and Gravity Suit last I checked, which does mean that some of the later enemies do hurt a lot if you get hit, as well as obviously environmental hazards. So here we are coming up on our next boss. A friendly, familiar face for some, and a bit disgusting for others who have only played this game. So yeah, so this lava's still treacherous for now. We just need to make our way through here, shoot these blobs. Out. I want to shoot that blob so that we can actually slide in here. And here's Kraid. So Kraid is very big and scary, but Samus ain't afraid of no Kraid. Ideally, we do want to see these nail attacks. It does allow us to hit him a little bit easier. This attack, while good for getting resources back, is a bit of a pain to hit him. Alright, phase 2. Now we need to shoot his gross, disgusting belly button. This is one of those bosses that I mentioned that has a dev-intended skip. If you manage to pick up bombs ahead of time, you can actually... I'm going to focus here actually now that Ideally we want to stay in this top platform as long as we can. Ah, damn. Alright. You can actually jump over those punches that he does and stay up there as long as you require. The timing of those jumps, they're uncountable, by the way. The ones with the red glowing eyes. It does have a slight bit of randomness to it as well, which can be a bit of a pain. Got it that time there. Nice. And he's dead. Especially the Kraid cutscene, which unfortunately we skip every cutscene in the game. A lot of the cutscenes in this game give Samus such like personality and energy that is just it's very vocal without having to actually be vocal. So here we have Diffusion Beam, which basically upgrades our charge shots to have a little bit of AoE on them. Which is handy for a bunch of those blobs that are hidden in walls. What you'll have to often see me do as well, when I'm charging my charge slot, I'll either be doing a quick turnaround left, like away and then towards where I want to shoot, or I'll do a quick spin jump and aim towards where I want to go. Basically, if I do either one of those, it significantly reduces the time it takes to charge the charge shot, which, especially in that sort of example there with the diffusion blocks, can really just spin jump, and you're already on your way without having to wait for the whole charge. Sometimes it can make you miss if you're bad and aiming is hard, especially when you're midair. So here we have one of the big major sequence breaks. The sequence break we've done earlier with the early cloak kind of just helped us optimize the order. I missed that jump. The early cloak just kind of helped us break the sequence of Vitaris a bit. Nice. Whereas this one lets us pick up Grapple Beam significantly earlier than we are intended to, which does help us speed up the next area we're going to, as well as this area a little bit as well. Got some time if you have anything to read.
Yes, I do. So we've got a couple more donations. So we had $10 from Charlotte, who said, "Let's go, Kenorah. I love when Samus does the funny shot through the wall." And we also had $50 from Perfect English, who says, "You're telling me a Metroid dreaded this rice? Good luck, Kenorah."
Thank you. Oh, believe me, the Metroid puns will only get worse as the game's plot continues. Ooh. There's some very choppy audio. Are you able to hear that? Or does it sound fine on stream? Or Oh, okay, I managed to fix it. Pausing it kind of fixed. Ooh, being in this area, it really doesn't like that. Alright. That sounded fine. Think we should be good now. That was just very weird. I hope that didn't come through too much on stream. Oh, missed that. We're focusing too much on audio issues. Alright. So now that we have Grapple Beam also lets us latch onto these spider magnet walls, which is very handy for going fast, as well as allows us to pull those Grapple Beam blocks that you saw in that room that we had to exit, as well as Grapple Beam doors as well. Pretty much, I think everything but power bombs and diffusion has a unique door kind of attached to it in some fashion. There are some not doors, but effectively doors that require ice missiles and the like, and yeah, we'll see plenty of those. So I kind of skimmed over it a little bit earlier, but I can kind of go over it again now. Samus in this game has quite a generous coyote jump. If you jump sort of after you slide, you have a window, a certain window to be able to get that jump in spaces that you might not expect to, which does allow us to pick up that Grapple Beam early by kind of going through that area far before having any extra jumps or anything like that, or even just going through it in reverse like you kind of intended to by picking up Grapple the intended way. So yeah, also because of those checkpoints and also because it's slow, we don't save really at all in the run. I do have a backup save. Oh. Alright, where's this Emmy? Up there. Cool. That's a very safe spot for it to be. I don't like it to be anywhere up here. So here's one of the areas that we can kind of skip by having Grapple early. Just saves us having to go through the rest of the Emmy zone being chased by the Speed Booster Emmy, which, as you can probably imagine by the name, is very fast, and we are not, because we do not have the Speed Booster ourselves. So it can very easily chase us and catch up to us, which will kill us if we do not parry it. So here we have another section of just turning a power, getting a power up, activating the missile doors for us to be able to get said power up. So yeah, you are able to go to this section of Dairon earlier than Kraid, which does allow us to pick up bombs. I meant to... Here they are. Yeah, it's a very disgusting cutscene, the quick kill on Kraid, because you use one of the morph ball cannons to go into his very pink infected belly button and just kind of explode him from the inside. I'm mildly glad that it's not faster, just because it's a very disgusting quick kill to have to watch, especially time and time again, especially in a marathon like this. So that's experiment Z53, if I remember the name correctly. We don't actually see him in the any percent. We see him kind of get experimented on right now, but by the time he actually becomes a boss, we've done a sequence break which allows us to completely skip that area of the game, which is a bit of a shame because he has a very fun quick kill involving Speed Booster, but because of all your very generous donations, with the boss rush incentive, we will actually be able to see that fight after the run, as well as some of the other fights in this run without sequence breaking, kind of fighting them a little bit as intended. Do have some time if you have anything to read.
Yep, so we've got a couple more donations. So we got $20 from Jay Yeen, who says, "Good luck, your run is going to be incredible." Thank you very much for the donation. You can do much better on the puns. We also had another $20 from Chocochi, who ran Final Fantasy X2 earlier, who said, apparently I said a naughty word during my run, so please take my swear jar donation and put it towards the Sonic TAS showcase, pretty please. Looking forward to the Metroid Dread Boss Rush showcase too.
Excellent, thank you. I'm also very concerned about saying any naughty words. I think I've skirted the line on a couple, but I'm trying to be very cautious. So, that enemy on the top shoots a very deadly laser. Not that deadly. And you can actually do a bit of like a slide cloak, as you were seeing me do in Ataria with the cloak doors. At a certain point, which then kind of tricks its AI to think that you're not targetable when you very much are, which kind of puts it on just enough of a delay for you to just kind of walk past it afterwards. Very handy. You can also kill enemies using the grapple beam in this game. There's a few, from what I've heard, jokey category extensions, mainly for bosses, where you kill them entirely using the grapple beam, especially the last boss of the game. I was talking to someone about it, and it requires too many. Far too many. It doesn't do enough damage to remotely be any sane task to perform. So this is Berenia, pretty much the main water level of the game, which it has a lot of these grapple beam blocks that lets us skip pretty much 90% of all the water in this area, which is fantastic because we sequence broke to get grapple early. So this is Flash Shift, the second of 3 Aeon abilities, the only other Aeon ability that we'll get in the run. Flash Shift is very good. Flash Shift pretty much allows us to teleport short distances, but up to a few times. It's, in most cases, a lot faster than Speed Booster, even after we get Speed Booster. It's that strong, and you really want to be using it as much as you can. I sometimes forget, because thinking about things is hard. So here we just have a couple blocks to break to reduce the water level, so we can access back up to Dairon. So here we have our first water bomb jump. Got it, nice. So basically, while you can infinite bomb jump in this game, just as much as any other Metroid game, after the first bomb jump in the water, it significantly lowers your vertical height gained per bomb, basically making it impossible while you don't have gravity suit. But you do a standard bomb jump, but then while you're still mid-air, you unmorph, and then you place another bomb mid-air, and that kind of stores that initial momentum, which lets you get that height that you're really not meant to in the middle of the air. Which there, it just saves a little bit of time. Later on, it's gonna help us sequence break two major items, which will be very handy when we do. And I'll kind of touch more about them then. So yeah, this is the Speed Booster Emmy. Kind of terrifying. It has these doors that, or has those gates that when you step on them, they will close behind you, which is pretty much your main way in this area to avoid the Emmy that chases you down. So here we have another one of those central units. And the shot's going to be sometimes kind of annoying to dodge, but we got there. So this is probably the Emmy that's casually the hardest to kill, because it just moves so fast. We kill it in a very quick and funny manner. We can just go right here and shoot right where it is right away, which should destroy its plating real quick, and then we charge up the blaster and kill it. So yeah, casually, that enemy is probably considered the hardest, just because it chases you down so fast, and you really need to find very long strips of land to be able to continue shooting. Something that I didn't quite mention up until now, and it's mostly prevalent in the later Emmys, is that there are certain rooms in the game considered to be kind of the designated Emmy kill spot, where if you shoot the Emmy enemy in those rooms, it kind of does it just as normal. It heats up the faceplate and lets you... Actually, I'm going to focus on this real quick. I messed that up. Alright. That's a fun speed booster puzzle if you can get it. We morph ball here just to kind of skip the animation that plays. Saves just a little bit of time. But yeah, if you try to shoot it in an area that it's not meant to be shot in, it still slows down the Emmy, but it reduces the amount of, like, basically does half the equivalent damage to the faceplate. So it can be much slower if you shoot it in areas you're not meant to. Here we have another elevator. If you have any donations or anything to plug, feel free to go for now.
Yep, so we do have a couple more donations. So we got $20 from Arts Freak, who says, "Let's go, Kenorah. I remember nothing about this game other than that you're good at it. But why would I need to know anything else? Good luck and don't die to insert relevant boss here. Also,
Emmys.
your hair
The
looks
Emmys.
awesome."
Oh, thank you.
And we also had $20 from Shirohari, who says, "This is for a nap/coffee fund for Worcester." 24 hours without sleep, and I've got to run later today.
Oh,
Put this
buddy.
towards an incentive of my choice. So thank you very much for that.
Alright, so this is Ferenia. Kind of the main Chozo kind of area of the game. This is a very Chozo populated, or once Chozo populated world. They've all kind of died. So this is a Chozo robot. Our main way of killing them is currently, if I don't mess it up, baiting them over here, and then storing a shine, and then hitting them once, and then baiting them over here again, and storing a second shine, and 2 shines kills the grey ones, making it very easy to kill them. So you might see there a dead Chozo on the ground. We did skip a couple cutscenes that introduces us to Silent Robe. He's basically the only friendly NPC I think we've ever really met in a... or certainly one that doesn't try to kill us at some point in a run. But he basically deactivated all of the Emmys, which is fantastic, because now they won't ever pose a threat to us for the rest of our mission. And he also explains that the Chozo that we fight in the initial few cutscenes that we skip is named Ravenbeak, and he's he's part of the warrior Chozo tribe, and he has his own power cannon basically, and he's very terrifying, and he's far too strong for us to fight at the moment. But his time will come. Spoiler alert. So we're back to Dairon. Just making our way through. Adam would like to talk to us again and pretty much saying, now that you've activated the Emmys, there's no more threats. Ravenbeak's still scary. And basically, the beginning of the game had Ravenbeak beat us up and gave us what Adam refers to as physical amnesia. Which basically means we lost all of our powers. Nope, this way. And so because of that, Ravenbeak is far too strong for us to fight at the moment. Come on. What Silent Robe also did for us is, back in Berenia, you may have noticed that there was that long strip of... Where am I going? I'm going the wrong way. I'm getting distracted. There was a long strip that looked like there was still some more area to the top. Silent Robe activated that sort of piston for us, which lets us enter the top part of Verenia, which is very handy because that's where more power-ups are, and we love power-ups. And I hate these enemies. Anything else to read or plug while we have more loading screens?
No more donos at this stage, but I just want to remind everybody that we do have a number of donation incentives or donation challenges throughout the marathon, and there's still quite a few coming up on our last couple days throughout this event. In fact, the next 2 runs both have one, so there's a language choice for the next run, and currently German is in the lead there on 30. And then for the Pokemon Heart Gold run, after that we have incentives for both the player and the rival name. So if you do donate, let us know in the comment and we'll assign it to one of those donation challenges.
Excellent. So now that we're back in Verenia, now that we have Speed Booster, kind of just go up here. Meant to... You can store up there and then use a speed ball to just zoom through here. You can speed keep through that entire section, but it's a little hard. So I like to go for the safety strat. So yeah, you can do another strat there where you can speedball all the way through there, but it's very tricky to pull off. So there is a boss in this area. Come on. We just skipped it. And another reason why I hate these enemies. Fuck it. Fudge it. I will just shoot them and not worry about them because they are a pain. So yeah, so that was referred to as Drogda skip. It skips the boss Drogda, which again we don't see in the 80% route, but we will see in the boss rush showcase later on. Basically, kind of similar a bit to the pseudo waves, where sliding has some very unique mechanics to it, where sliding and then quickly turning away and then turning back to the wall kind of shoves Samus's arm cannon into the wall, which then, with the diffusion beam charge shot, manages to blow up those diffusion blobs from the other side of the wall, which just allows us to skip that entire boss entirely. That was too many of that same word. So this is Gavon. This is the nature planet, or nature section of the game. Lots of animals, lots of fauna. Soon to be a lot less robots. So this is a gold Chozo robot. A lot more hardier than the silver one we met. I believe also does a little bit more damage. Is also just a pain to fight. We're able to get that first shine, but there isn't enough space to be able to get a second one. But enough missiles and we get it through. Alright. So here we get to see the repercussions of Silent Robes. I'll go the slower route just so we can see that deactivated Emmy there. Basically, he deactivated all the Emmys on the rest of the planet for us, which is very handy. And now Adam is just going to pretty much talk about just how awesome and cool Ravenbeak is. Adam spends most of the game talking about how awesome and cool Ravenbeak is and how much better he is than you. And there may or may not be a reason for that I'll explain at the end. Kind of just going through the area now, picking up an extra little item here, super missiles. Super missiles are a little bit slower, but also do significantly more damage. Kind kind of just backtracking a little bit here while we just get to the sort of the super missile doors. So if there's any donations or anything to read, feel free to say them now.
Yep, so we do have a $20 donation from either Demos or Damos. I'm
Demos,
sure Kenorah
yep.
will know. There we go. It says, good luck on the run. Also, Missy is incredibly disappointed that she's not allowed into your room while you're gone.
Yeah, that's my housemate, and the household's cat has been very affectionate to me since I moved into the main house. God, I love that cat.
I'm hoping that cat is at least getting fed.
She is. She is. At least I've been told she's been getting fed. So next we have this little tram, which is a very isolated area. Elon, not affiliated with any hyper-billionaires of the world, is kind of locked away in a vault. I'm sure there's nothing spooky or scary locked away in said vault, though. I'm sure everything will be fine, just making our way through. As it is multiple rooms, Speed Booster is just a little bit faster. So yeah, because we are playing on a sort of, as long as there's one completed save file on that Switch profile, you are able to skip every and all cutscene in the game, which is fantastic. So unfortunately, entering Elon has released the X parasites from Fusion back into the world, which pretty much then becomes very quickly the main reason why we are still on this planet, even though the Emmys are deactivated. The X parasites were a very terrifying, terrifying species from Fusion that pretty much absorbs and takes over any living organism on a planet. And they were being locked and stored away here, and now they've been released free. Oh, okay, maybe in a bit released free. There we've picked up Plasma Beam, which allows us to shoot those Plasma Beam doors, as well as lets us shoot things that were previously only hurtable by missiles by our beam, which is fantastic when we can mash beam button very quickly. As seen here. So yeah, these Chosen Warriors have been affected by X, so when you enter Phase 2, they get a lot more spooky, and both in terms of design and damage output, especially later on, some of the late ones do more than, like, I think it's like close to two energy tanks of damage per hit when they're enraged. So they are very spooky. Gotta pick up a little bit of an extra safety E-tank here. Marathon safe strats are good. So unfortunately, entering Elon now has freed the X parasites onto the rest of the planet, which kind of does passively make a lot of the enemies in the game a lot more spookier. X parasites alter the enemies to be kind of enemy pluses. Another loading screen if you have anything to read or plug.
Yep, so we've got another $20 donation from WebS2D, who said, donating to the swear jar on Kenorah's behalf. Good luck, bud.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I will also donate off that. Whoopsie. Thank you, Webs. I appreciate it. So there was a cutscene there where pretty much we see that one of the X parasites also infects Silent Robe, which usually wouldn't be a huge issue, except for the fact that Silent Robe had access to the controls, which activated and deactivated all the Emmys. So unfortunately now, as Adam is about to here tell us, all of the Emmys are now reactivated, and now that the X parasites and the Emmys are on our tail, pretty much a lot of things are super deadly. Alright, enemies in a good spot. Can just kind of zoom on by. So here's another area where those water bomb jumps are going to be super helpful. Usually you're meant to have at least one of the extra jump abilities to be able to make this jump. But with keeping that momentum, we are able to make our way up here. I want to shoot that door for later. It'll become prevalent soon enough. So now that we... Oh. Alright. What we're meant to do there is if we don't mess up and keep Speed Booster, we are able to skip the first phase of these central units here by just speed boosting into them immediately. And then Plasma Beam Shots does wipe them out quite quickly. So here we have the Ice Enemy coming up. I'm meant to be able to get this a little bit later in the game, but thanks to that water bomb jump we are able to get up here early. Uh-oh. We're good. Might play it safe and just see where the enemy's going. Oh, it's going over there. Cool. Really didn't want to get hit by that there. So yeah, this Ice Enemy is probably the worst one in terms of you can shoot it outside of one of the rooms that it's intended to be killed in. Just slowing it down and making this take a little bit longer. I didn't hit enough shots while I was on the roof that I felt comfortable staying up there, but you can very much kill it on top of the roof, and it just falls down, and you get the cutscene down here as well. So now we have ice missiles, which help freeze enemies, as well as, I believe, increases our damage a little bit on top of super missiles. Does allow us to activate or kill these effectively fire doors in the form of these things. And now we have coming up one of my favorite tricks in the run. There's two main ways of doing this trick, of doing space jump early. There's a way that involves bomb jumps, some very precise bomb jumps, and oh boy, it either clicks for you or it doesn't. And the alternative has us do, I think, one final pseudo wave, which has a very specific sort of tell, because you're actually diffusion beaming off an enemy, and the enemy needs to be in a very specific frame of its animation to be able to hit it and explode into... So I'm going to just line up this shot here, and then utilizing the parry stance. So I got the hit, but my angle was wrong, so it didn't hit. There we go, got it, nice. So basically, that lets us enter this little water area, which gives us access to space jump much, much earlier than we are ever intended to. Isn't one of the major ones that breaks Adam, but it suddenly leads to one of the ones that breaks Adam. So basically, without ever picking up Spin Boost, we can now pick up space jump and jump infinitely. Oh, unless I mess up that jump there. So we don't have gravity, so we can't ever gain momentum by spin jumping. Oh boy, come on. There we go. So a little bit of a bump jump here to get back to where we need to go. There we go. Kind of making our way, moving fast. Da-da-da-da-da-da. So now it's just a little bit of backtracking through some familiar areas to be able to get to our probably the most sequence break item in the run. If you've got anything else to read, feel free to say anything now. I can sing a tune.
So I'd just like to remind everyone that we've been running this event for 3 days now. We've still got 36 hours, well, just about exactly 36 hours left to go. And so for this event, we've been raising money for Cure Cancer's Game on Cancer initiative. And they're a charity which funds early career cancer researchers who are working across all areas of cancer research. We all know the devastating effects that cancer can have and how important the research is. And so if you would like to donate, the place to do so is donate.ausspeedruns.com.
Fantastic cause, and we are very blessed to be able to work with them this year. Alright, so we're kind of just going back through some old areas. Speed boosting in a way that we could have accessed this area a lot earlier, but we wouldn't have been able to really do anything with it. But now that we have space jump, we can. So this takes us back all the way to good old Ataria. Now, the way you're meant to get items, or these two items in the game, you're meant to be able to, you're meant to go the sort of the intended path and get gravity suit first, which then activates the passage of time for Ataria to freeze over a boss, the experiment Z53. Takes over kind of the thermal system and freezes over Ataria completely, which Screw Attack, sorry, is basically surrounded by water, which we do not have a way of unsurrounding it by ice. So you have to go around and kill the boss, and it's super slow, and we can manage to sequence break our way back to Screw Attack without needing to pick up Gravity Suit first, and thus saving that entire frozen section. It does require us going through some cold rooms, but nothing that we can't handle with our health pool. So normally you would be able to access this very easily, but without Gravity Suit, you'd never be able to make that height even with all the spin jump. So, doing our favorite water bomb jump, and then utilizing some very funky collision, if I don't mess up the jumping. So using the corner of that collision there, we can actually gain height out of the... If my jumps want to input, that'd be fantastic. Sometimes it eats your input as well, which is a bit annoying. There we go. So the corner of that collision kind of boosts Samus just enough high enough that it that it lets her get up to that ledge and then be able to jump over. So now we have Screw Attack. So now our spin jumps are quite deadly. And a nice little added benefit of Screw Attack is that it also allows Samus to damage electrified enemies, which normally we are not able to do. So we can store up a Shine Spark there, and then use it to get out of the water here. But again, usually you'd be expected to be able to go through water no problem. Can make that, nope, alright. Oh, come on. There we go. So, now it's pretty much just the rest of the game. Cleaning up some of the last few power-ups. Doing one more for Pseudo Wave, actually, now that I think about it. Lining up with that shot there, and then just morphing, and let's just break that, saving us a bit of time. And now just backtracking to some more elevators to then allow us to get Gravity Suit after Screw Attack. Anything to read, or want me to just sing some tunes?
No, we'll go with the donos, thanks.
Yep.
So we had $50 from Fives, who says, good luck, Keno. I actually don't know how I'd say your name abbreviated like that. That'll do.
Keno
but
works.
You've got this. Also, save the animals or something. I don't know, man. That's in this game, right? It isn't. but okay. Thank you very much for the donation. And we also had $70.71 from Zryu. Ooh.
Zyru?
Let's go with that.
Zyruvius?
Yes.
Yes.
Zyruvius. Okay. Let's go Kenorah. I don't know what this game is, but all I know is you and cancer research charities have my unconditional support. Thank you very much for those donations.
So now we enter this hot area that we opened up way earlier in the game. Now that we have various suits, completely fine, and spin, jump, and screw attack lets us take some more teleportals. This section is just teleportal after teleportal. Got some fun speed boost rooms. Can be a little bit tricky coming up, but they are. It was one of my favorite ones playing the game casually, and so the fact that it's included in the speedrun to get gravity suit as efficiently as you can is just a blast. It's a very fun one that utilizes your ability to save sparks and looks impressive while doing it. So now that we have screw attack early, we can actually break those blocks and saves us having to traverse that water, which with space jump we can very easily, or even a shine spark, but screw attack makes it just a little easier. So returning to Baronia one final time. Unfortunately, this section is basically in complete water because it is where you get gravity suit, where you then get free reign over your mobility in water. So we won't have to worry about the slow water movement for much longer. Then it's pretty much just returning to the final areas of the game and killing some remaining bosses and getting the last few power-ups. I tried to do it a little differently than what I'm used to, but I probably shouldn't have. I was thinking it might have been a little safer. So yeah, this one can be a little bit finicky, just in a way you need to store the shine spark and how the doors operate when you do. Nice. Alright, so that's that shine puzzle, speed booster puzzle, and then we break this hidden wall, shoot some blobs, kill some fish, more diffusion blobs. Oh no, don't go there too early. Grapple beam block to make this background object fall down, break some of the terrain, which lets us enter this area, which does let us pick up gravity suit. Now, while it may seem that I'm a little bit biased because purple, the gravity suit design in this game is phenomenal, and it accentuates features incredibly, and it's just gorgeous to look at. So we shine spark up here, get I believe the final missile tank of the run, leaving us with 65 to fight the final few bosses. Plenty enough as long as I don't miss too many shots. And now we have some duo Chozo robots, which at this point the strat is just to spam. As long as you can also use screw attack for some good damage, but with a fast enough spam, plasma beam does the work just fine. Alrighty, one last teleportal for a little bit. We've got a boss coming up. It does look very impressive if you can manage to get it right, but it's also very incredibly difficult to get right. If you got any donations or anything to read, feel free to go for it now.
Yep, so we have $5 from Ted or James, who says, enjoy the pronunciation break, Worcester. This can go towards any incentive. And we also have another $10 donation from Ted or James that says, hi, Worcester, would you feel better if the player name was Whoopazee? So thank you very much for those donations. Beautiful names, thank you.
Excellent. So now that we have Gravity Soup, pretty much the entire game is open to us. I'm going to try to do a little bit of speed boost. Nope, missed it. Alright. So... Alright, I'm going to have to do the slower strat, but... Alright. This is Galzuna. Bit of a pain. But basically does a lot of these X-type attacks. Cross pattern attacks. And the only weak point is behind. Excellent. So that was actually quite quick. And then speed boosters kill those X instantly, if you can manage to store one up. So that was a very clean fight. It could have been a little bit cleaner, but in a marathon setting, that is going to be the... I'm going to be very happy with that. So Gazona gives us the cross bombs ability, which if we hold R when we place a bomb, Samus places one of these cross bombs that does a plus style bomb 4 times, I believe, which helps you get over a bunch of those collapsible block patterns, as well as they do considerably more damage if you can manage to hit enemies with them, especially the final boss in the first phase. As I believe in that first phase, each pulse of the cross bombs does, I think it's, was it 400 damage per explosion, I believe it was, which the first phase is primarily just getting to a damage threshold to be able to activate a sort of phase transition, but it can be very, very quick in assisting with that as well with missiles. But we'll get into that much later. So now we're back here. We've broken Adam. So Adam will pretty much never talk to us again until the one of the final cutscenes, when it reveals who it is. So using the same slide trick as we did for Drug to Skip, we're able to hit this grapple block from behind, and it just saves us having to go over the edge to that section. With a lot of the enemies, that does like a sucking motion, and you have to kill them with bombs, and it's just a bit of a pain. Have another teleportal if there's anything to read.
Yeah, so I just want to remind people, if you do donate during this event, we do have some prizes that you can win as well. So if you donate at least $10, you'll be able to win one of 8 Landfall game bundles that we have available. And that comprises of Cluster Truck, Tabs, and Nightfall. And for people who are within Australia, if you donate $20 or more, you'll be able to win a pair of HyperX Cloud Buds. And if you donate $40 or more, you'll be also in the running to win one of 2 HyperX Cloud 2 gaming headsets.
Excellent. So, yeah, now that we have Screw Attack a little bit earlier than the game intends for us to do, there are a lot of these electrified enemies in this sort of area that Screw Attack normally you're unable to... Oh, this is a very scary spot for this to be. Nice, managed to avoid it there. So this is the Wave Emmy. I'll get back to what I was saying in a second. Wave Emmy, because it has the Wave Beam, it can see and shoot through walls, and it's a bit of a pain, and can stun you out of it. So yeah, electrified enemies usually cannot be damaged while they're electrified. which there's a boss coming up that is electrified for most of its fight, but thankfully with Screw Attack we are able to damage it all the time, which allows it for it to be very easily killed alongside a Shine Spark at the beginning. So that's just coming up here. I do forget the name of this boss. I'm sure I remember it in the boss rush. So even though it's electrified, we can just kind of Screw Attack it, and then 3 Screw Attacks kills the X-Host, getting us Storm Missile. These bosses are going to look very different in the boss rush because we actually kind of have to do them as intended, which should be good fun. But yeah, what Storm Missile lets us do is it lets us hold the missile button, which lets us kind of charge up a lock-on of up to 5 targets. Some enemies can be targeted up to 5 times, and some of them a little bit less. It lets us hit those Storm Missile doors as well. And now we're just making our way through this section. We have another set of Chozo robots to fight. We are able to store up a Shine Spark for one of them, which does make the fight a little bit easier. Oh, aimed weirdly. Alright. So ideally you want to try to line yourself up where you're hitting both of them with plasma. The counterable hits, if you can manage to counter them, are quite good. They keep them mobile and you don't go very far. But the way that I mash does mean that I have to kind of move my hands very unintuitively. So I kind of just often take the hit and deal with that afterwards. So yeah, kind of just using a combination of everything we've got now, cross bombs, storm missiles, and screw attack to get through this area. With the final enemy that we actually fight. For story reasons, the actual final enemy doesn't actually get fought as the others, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Alright, so now that we have both Speed Booster and Screw Attack, these central units are a joke. We just speed boost them once, and then screw attack them once when they're in the brain, and that's that. So now we have the final Emmy kill. There's also a pretty consistent way to kill this Emmy too, which I would say, especially being the final one, casually I found it the second hardest, just because Speed Booster was just such a pain. But is thankfully a very consistent way to kill him. So we want to reshoot that bomb block. I might have been a little bit too fast. Now this is looking good. So then we shoot its faceplate while it's up here. Zoom down here. Keep shooting its faceplate. It looks up any day now, and then we charge and we kill. Alright, so that is actually all of the Emmy robots that we fight for the entire run, and the fact that I didn't get hit by any of them or failed on any of the Emmy kills too spectacularly is actually a bit of a first for me, just because sometimes they can just be really tricky with where they spawn as you're entering the zones, and they can just intentionally be directly where you want to go, and bumping into them effectively means your death unless you have quick reflexes. Some could even say that it is a test of your reflexes. Alright, so now that we have Wave Beam, we can access some of the final doors of the game, as well as now shoot through walls without having to clip Samus through collision, which is fantastic. All right. So entering back to Hanubia. Nah. So our ship is actually in Hanubia, in this area, in the H area. They all start with a different letter. Our ship is here, but it's currently actually inaccessible, and we wouldn't want to leave the area without killing both Ravenbeak and solving the X problem. You begin the game at the very bottom of the planet, and the biggest hurdle is the fact that you are nowhere near your ship, and so you ideally initially want to... Ravenbeak's a threat and too super spooky for you, so you at first want to just leave, but now he's a problem that we can actually manage. So, coming up on this next Emmy, maybe you're wondering why I said we don't actually fight this one. So it's now dead on the ground. The cutscene that we skip, I will just focus a little bit here. Excellent. So the cutscene that we skip, the Emmy actually grabs a hold of us because it's the power bomb Emmy, and it stuns us. But we grab it by its head spike and manage to suck the energy out of it completely, kind of like you saw there. And this new power of Samus is surprising her, and it's very unexpected. And we soon learn through an Atom room that we would skip, so I'm explaining it now, that the Metroid DNA that actually had her suit be infused with in Fusion is now actually starting to take effect and activate, effectively turning Samus herself into a Metroid. So now all of those jokes from all of those years back of Samus being a Metroid, Metroid being the main character, is now very much 100% true. Unfortunately didn't pick up a power bomb there, so we will have to go through this next room a little bit slowly. Ideally you want to power bomb through these rooms right before you enter them, but sometimes the drops don't line up in your favor, as well as certain manipulations you can do to assist in that. We are just doing a little bit of movement. Actually, no. The next mini-boss fight is coming up, so I will hold off until that for donations. This is the final Chozo. So this one's the scariest one, being golden. When it's enraged like this, all of its attacks do a lot of damage. Especially that one. You saw I took 3 whole E-tanks worth of damage from that one attack. Luckily with Samus now being a Metroid and sucking the life energy out of all of the enemies, the major enemies that she comes across, she now heals to full whenever she kills one of these Chozo warriors. Alright. So here we have the final elevator loading screen of the game. If there are any final donations or anything to read, now would be certainly the time.
Okay, so we got a couple. So we got $5 from T-Bolt, who said, put this towards the rival name incentive for Pokemon Heart Gold to be named. So that's now on $61, so it's ahead by just 1, so that's a tight race. And we also had $20 from Landfair Pilgwingwil, who said, I can't believe the field isn't long enough for my full name, Landfair Pilgwingwil Gogori Chernobwil Lantizzle Gogogogoch. Put this towards Worcester's choice if he comes anywhere near pronouncing it right, otherwise make it Kenorah's choice. So I'm pretty sure that's you, mate. Get you later.
Yeah, get me later. Alright, so here we have the final boss of the game. So there's one final Atom room as we get to it. We skipped the cutscene, but pretty much the Atom that we've been talking to this entire time hasn't actually been the Atom on our ship. it's been Ravenbeak himself, and he reveals himself to be our father. So kind of much like the run I did last year for ASM. Actually, I'm going to focus on this real quick. Nice, I got it. Alright, so if you cross Storm Missiles fast enough on that first phase, as well as mash fast enough, I believe it's roughly the speed of 18 hertz, you can actually do a very quick phase 1. And in this phase 2, whenever he's doing these beam flurries, you can actually use the melee counter stance to evade it effectively, which just feels and looks cool to do. So yeah, Ravenbeak reveals himself to be our genealogical father. The Chozo genes that were injected into Samus at a very young age were from Ravenbeak, which is why we are as strong of a warrior as he is, especially now that we are in fact a Metroid. So this, in Ravenbeak, the parry windows are actually, you do full damage versus all the other ones in the game. So we ideally want to get them in this third phase. Just does a lot of damage. And oftentimes we can just tank these because we have so much health. And he should be phasing any moment now. Excellent. It was a very clean Ravenbeak fight. So unfortunately, we skipped that cutscene, but basically Ravenbeak holds us by the throat, and we turn into a full Metroid with the Metroid suit, which I'll showcase a little bit just here by not skipping this cutscene right away, just because the suit is phenomenal. And we basically take down his entire ship by ourselves. So now that Metroid is a Metroid, Ravenbeak actually gets infused with the X that was from that infected Kraid. Oh, I lost count there. I believe that's close enough. So you can start charging right away, but it actually slows him down. So there's a bit of an optimal wait period that you can do just to kill him just a smidge faster. So yeah, now that we are what is in-game known as the Metroid suit, Samus is very angry and very powerful. Now has the Hyper Beam, which just clears every enemy and every destructible block that exists in the game, and is just fun to use and hold. So here we have the final escape sequence, as with most Metroid games. Time will be coming up shortly. I will let you know when that is, when we're in the final room. Yeah, you want to be using power bombs before you enter the next room, just because they explode immediately once you enter the next room, which helps to save a little bit of time per power bomb you need to do. It can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but whatever helps, helps. Don't want to fall down there. Alright. So if we do those first few jumps, we actually skip a bit of a wind-up cutscene. Time is coming up shortly as we exit this room. It's going to be very quick once I speed boost. Coming up. Oh, alright, not a bonk. Now. Whew. And so that was Metroid Dread Any Percent NMG. What was the final time?
It was 1:33:19.
Whew, that's actually a PB by a good solid like 3 or 4 minutes. I've been practicing a lot, especially with the help of the community. The Metroid Dread speed cord is fantastic. They even have a boot camp that you can help learn routes and tricks by some of the teachers there, and they've been super incredible. So now we have a little bit of a gander at the in-game time, which does include the length of all of the cutscenes that we skip. So it's usually a little bit slower than our RTA, but yeah, no, that is certainly a PB. And no deaths. I was certainly expecting to have maybe just a couple, and I was going to donate $50 per death. I'll probably still donate myself anyway, especially for the swear jar incident. Whoops. But that is, yeah, that's probably going to be one of the hard to beat. All right. So moving right along into the, yeah, that was well underestimated because that was a PB. Whoops. So yeah, by beating the game fast, you get some of these extra little vignettes. If you beat the game with a certain amount of percentages, you get some others, and if you beat the game with both quickly and up to 100%, you get all of them as well as a special one. And it can be kind of fancy.